Julia had gotten lost in the winding back streets of London. Rain drizzled down in a fine, relentless curtain, soaking the cobblestones and painting the city in muted shades of gray. She had set out to explore her new neighborhood, only to stumble upon an antique shop tucked between two derelict buildings. A rusty bell chimed with an oddly discordant note as she stepped inside. The shop reeked of mildew and old paper, its cramped interior crammed with relics of forgotten lives, rusted jewelry boxes, threadbare rugs, porcelain dolls with cracked faces. Julia wandered aimlessly until her gaze snagged on a portrait leaning against a stack of warped picture frames. At first glance, the painting was unremarkable. A wooden frame chipped at the corners, its colors faded by decades of neglect. Yet something about it held her. The subject was a woman, her shoulders and hair rendered in careful, shadowy strokes. But her face was blank. Every feature, eyes, nose, mouth, had been erased, leaving behind only a vague oval of flesh-toned paint. Interested? The voice startled Julia. An elderly woman peered at her over thick, smudged spectacles from behind the counter. "I can give you a good price. Most people find it unsettling." Julia hesitated, a chill creeping up her spine. She had no reason to want this, yet she couldn't look away. "How much?" she asked. The price was laughably low. Almost before she knew what she was doing, Julia was pulling bills from her wallet. That evening, back in her small flat, she hung the portrait on the living room wall. In the dim light, it seemed even more unnerving. The faceless woman gazing out into the room with blank, unyielding presence. Later, as she prepared for bed, Julia glanced at the painting one last time and froze. A faint new line had appeared on the face, the hint of a mouth. At first, she told herself she was imagining it. Old paintings were prone to cracks and imperfections. Maybe the change had always been there, unnoticed until now. Still, unease gnawed at her. By morning, the sensation had dulled, replaced by embarrassment at her own paranoia. She had breakfast with the portrait looming over her, convincing herself it was just paint. When she left for work, she didn't think of it again. That night, exhaustion hit her hard. She dropped her bag, kicked off her shoes, and collapsed on the couch. Her gaze drifted to the painting, and her breath caught. The mouth was unmistakably clearer, now a faint curve, lips pressed shut. Julia swallowed, an icy dread settling in her chest. She reached for her phone, snapped a photo, and pulled up yesterday's image for comparison. There was no denying it. The face had changed. She stood frozen for several seconds before shaking herself. This was insane. Paintings didn't just alter themselves. Perhaps the lighting was different. Perhaps she was losing her mind. That night she dreamed of water, vast black water, and a woman standing waist deep in it, her face a blur. Over the following days, the transformation continued, subtle but undeniable. Cheekbones began to emerge, a faint shadow of a nose. Each morning, Julia found herself holding her breath before daring to look. Each night she snapped photos, each one confirming the progression. By the end of the week, the woman's lips were parted slightly, caught between a breath and a word. Julia considered covering the painting with a sheet, but something stopped her. Some sick, morbid curiosity demanded to see what would happen next. She avoided telling anyone. What was there to say? My painting is growing a face? No one would believe her. On the 8th day, the eyes began to form. 2 pale smudges, vague and hollow, but undeniably there. Julia stared at them until her vision blurred, an unfamiliar terror coiling in her gut. There was something about their placement, the slope of the brows. They looked like hers. The realization struck her like a physical blow. She stumbled back from the wall, nearly knocking over a lamp. "No," she muttered, shaking her head. "No, no, no." That night, she couldn't sleep. Every creak of the building set her nerves on edge. At one point, she crept back into the living room, heart pounding, to find the portrait exactly where she'd left it. In the half-light of early dawn, she swore the lips had curled into the barest hint of a smile. The following day, Julia called the antique shop. "I bought a painting from you last week," she began, trying to keep her voice steady. "A portrait of a woman. Her face was, missing?" There was a pause. Then the same rasping voice answered, "Oh, that one. Yes. Can you tell me anything about it?" Another pause. "No record of its origin. It's older than the shop, older than me. People bring things in. Some of them you shouldn't keep." "What do you mean, shouldn't keep?" But the woman only said, "If you don't want it, bring it back. I'll refund you." Julia hung up, hands trembling. She wanted to return it, to get rid of it, to burn it if she had to. Yet she couldn't. Some twisted fascination kept her tethered. 2 nights later, Julia woke to a sound that wasn't there. Not a creak, not a footstep, just the absence of all other noise. A heavy, suffocating silence. She rose on unsteady legs and drifted into the living room. The portrait was complete. The woman's face was Julia's, rendered in exquisite detail, but the eyes were empty. Glossy voids stared back at her, reflecting nothing. Julia stumbled backward, a scream caught in her throat. Her phone slipped from her hand, the screen lighting up as the camera inadvertently triggered. The flash burst, stark and white, freezing the room in a single frame. On the screen, Julia saw herself, standing before the portrait, mouth open in a silent scream. But the Julia in the painting was smiling, her hollow eyes fixed not on the camera, but on her. The next morning, a neighbor reported that Julia's flat was unlocked. Police found no sign of forced entry, no struggle, nothing amiss, except for a single painting hanging on the wall. It was a portrait of Julia, her features flawless, her eyes eerily blank. The original faceless woman was gone.